please welcome to the stage your friend and mine, Kyle Farmer!
Yes, okay. Thank you, Jason. Tonight's going to be really good. I'm first, and if you don't know how these things work, the guy who's probably going to not be the best goes first, so we got Jason and then Derek. Like, rest assured it's going to get better from here. But I do want to commend everybody in the room for, just putting the phone away for a few hours, getting away from the social media, and, making an attempt to be with real people in real life and to laugh a little bit. I think it's good for us. I think we could all use it. So I'm going to do my best here. Today's been a long day. We woke up early and we had a baby shower for my cousin over on the west side. So we woke up super early, drove straight over there, did the baby shower, drove straight back. And there are little things at my age that are telling me that I'm getting older. And today was one of those little things. We were in the car for like 6 hours. I did not know until today that your butt cheek could fall asleep. Like, I didn't know that was a thing, right? Like, foot, hand, leg, those things all the time. But until today, that sensation was completely new to me. And typically, like, if it's your foot or something, it's because you're sitting on it, right? That's easy to fix, but I was sitting on my butt cheek, and I didn't know what else to sit on. So I wasn't sure how to react, and it was just a reminder that I'm just not, the young spring chicken I once was. But it's not as bad as the other day. Oh, this one's bad. I was out in the garden watering, which as I say it, sounds old too. But I'm out in the garden watering, and every once in a while, one of those really old, really cool, like World War II bomber planes flies over, right? And it flies right over the house, like really low, and I'm just watching it, and there's nobody outside. I'm home alone, so I'm all by myself. And I'm watching this plane, and like right as it gets out of my vision, I say out loud to absolutely nobody, "Wow, what a treat that was." Who am I? I travel quite a bit for work. Like, I'm not the guy with the backpack and the headphones that looks like he's going on an adventure anymore. I'm the guy with like the roller luggage and doing my stretches before my flight to Atlanta boards, I have to. And I'm getting a little bit older, and that's okay. Part of it is that my wife and I have 4 kids. They're all under the age of 14. That'll age you. That'll age you a little bit. And it's great. I love being a dad. I love the kids. But it does seem to have an effect on you. And on the day-to-day, there are certain hacks that we use as parents to kind of get us through, right? And some of this might sound familiar to you. If not, if you're going to be a new parent, feel free to steal any of these, right? These are really helpful. But one of the things I think we need to do with our kids is we need to keep them humble, right? And if you want proof of that, just look at the haircuts that the young men are walking around with right now. Like, we used to take in pictures of Zach Morris to the barber and be like, I want to look like this guy. They're bringing in like pictures of produce, and they're like, maybe look as much like this piece of broccoli as you possibly can. Like, they need to be humble a little bit. And one of the ways that I would traditionally do that would be by giving ridiculous answers to questions that I don't know the answer to, right? And that was kind of a right you have as a parent. For years, my son believed me when I told him, he asked me how the garage door opener worked, and I told him that there was a little tiny man that lived in the attic, and every time you hit the button, he would open the door, and then he would close it again, and he had holidays off and all that. For like 2 years, he believed me because he didn't know any better. But now, if he asks me a question like that, he just skips me and goes straight to Google and gets schematics and instructions and all of it right there. So it really stole our ability to kind of have that one-up on the kids. And another one that I used to use all the time was I'd come home from work and the kids always want my attention and they're like, Dad, come jump on the trampoline or come play. And I love my kids, and 99% of the time, like, I'm game. But that 1% of the time you got a headache or you don't want to do it. And so I would have this trick where I would say, yeah, give me 30 minutes and then we're on. And in that 30 minutes they would forget or get distracted or something else would happen. Now when I come home and they're like, Dad, can we jump on the trampoline? And I say, yeah, give me 30 minutes. The very first thing I hear is, Alexa, set the timer for 30 minutes. Right? And at that point, my hands are absolutely tied. I do have a son. He's my oldest, and I have 3 girls. So a lot of girls in the house. I grew up with a lot of girls. And I actually touched on this last time. I have some insight into the world of, the toys and the things that they do and they play with. And I have ideas for Barbie. And we talked about this a little bit last time, like there should be a Mormon missionary Barbie. You could have the Moses Lake Barbie where she's like handcuffed and comes with a red light. And I thought, why is there no NASCAR Barbie, right? She comes in like a little Bud Light t-shirt, she's already got a black eye, like, right? Or PE teacher Barbie, and she's got a whistle with those like swishy pants, and she looks like she's never taken a PE class in her life. Those are toys that kids want to play with, right? But no, tech is stealing our advantage, so we do need to keep an eye out for that. And I think that as parents, there's different ways that we approach as the kids get older, dealing with the things that come along with that. And one of those things is the first time you see somebody be mean to your kid for no reason is a hard one to swallow, right? You see your kid being bullied or something, and you never thought you'd want to choke out an 8-year-old in your life, but there you are, daydreaming about it. And then as soon as you get past that, I think a lot of parents think like, homeschool. I'm going to do homeschool because I'm just going to pull them away from all the stuff that happened. Anybody homeschooling in here? Shoot. No, bless your heart. Homeschooling is hard, and anybody that does it, more power to you. But is it? I don't think it's just. I think there's something about homeschool kids where you can usually tell, right? Like if you put me in a room with 20 kids and you said 2 of these kids are homeschooled, you have to guess which ones. In like 6 seconds, I'm gonna know exactly which kids are homeschooled. There's just commonalities, right? And they're not universal truths, but they're commonalities. Things like, Velcro shoes, Boyd haircuts, right? Extensive knowledge of Lord of the Rings and/or Chronicles of Narnia. I'm not sure what that is, but it always seems to be the case. And I say this from experience. One of my best friends growing up was homeschooled, and he never wanted people to know. He didn't want other kids that we met, or especially girls, he didn't want them to know. And so he was always trying to hide it. And we'll just call him, for the sake of privacy, we'll call him Homeschool Herbie. And I remember, does anybody remember no fear shirts? You guys remember those? Right? So if you're lower than 40, they were just a trendy shirt that said no fear and then some super controversial statement on the back like, second place is the first loser, But they were all the thing for a while. And so I remember one Sunday we all showed up with our no fear shirts at church, and Homeschool Herbie must have went home and told his mom he needed a no fear shirt, because the next week he came back with the homeschool version, which was like a see-through old Hanes t-shirt, and she had embroidered on the front, not no fear, but the biblically apt, fear not. He was trying, right? Like, bless his soul, he was trying. Another time, our youth group had a band come to perform, and we were trying to be like punk rockers, and we wanted to be musicians, and so that was like our thing, and we were in the front row, and I remember, we were just stoked, and we're just up there rocking out, and I'm a drummer, so of course I was on my air drums, just looking as cool as you can, playing air drums, My buddy next to me is like just shredding on his air guitar, and he's just hitting it, and then I look down at Homeschool Herbie. He's just wailing away on his air cello, right? Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. No, but seriously, homeschool is great. They're usually smarter than the rest, so they're doing something right. But school is now back in session. Summertime is over, except for you homeschoolers. And it's good. It's good to have the kids back in school. It's good to kind of get that space at home again. I work from home, so it's nice to have a little bit of peace and quiet. I hope everybody had a great summer. We had a good summer. We did a lot. There's 2 observations that I want to talk about from the summertime. And the first one is weddings. And weddings, a lot of weddings in the summer. Weddings are great. Everybody loves a good wedding. I noticed this trend where there's like a suggestion box or like an advice box. And there always seems to be at least one person who probably started drinking before they got to the wedding. And they give this same advice and they want everybody to know because it's so funny. They're like, I'm writing fight naked. And I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to do it. And I get it, right? Like, fighting naked is, if you're naked, you're distracted, and so you're probably not going to fight. I see the appeal, but I don't know if that's such good advice for everybody, right? I think if you're like right out of college or you're still young and things are symmetrical and like somewhat where they're supposed to be, then fighting naked's probably a good idea. But what about people that are getting married later in life, or people that are taking another crack at it? Like, I don't know that if my spouse was considering whether or not she's still attracted to me, my best move is to be like, oh yeah? Right? Because she's already mad, so that's not going to help, right? And then she gets like open criticism. She's going to look at me like, when the hell did your belly button start looking like that, right? And then you get upset, so you're like, oh well, you didn't tell me that you collect skin tags, And that one makes her really mad, so she's like, well, I don't even know what's going on with all that anymore. Like, what color is that? Is that a shade of purple? What do you call that? Low circulation lavender? Like, I don't know what's going on there. And I just think it's a bad idea. But I do have some I think it's helpful marriage advice. And if you're looking for a way to like identify gaps in your communication skills, or anything like that. So I got to take it. Sorry. The thing you need to do is you need to do a physical activity that requires partnership between you and your spouse. That will, without a doubt, point out gaps in your communication skills, right? When my wife and I first got married, we went on our honeymoon down to San Diego. And it was great, and we got to the hotel, and they give you all those brochures about things you should do. And there was this amazing brochure, and it showed all of these people in kayaks, and they were in these amazing sea caves, and the water was calm, and they're like looking around and just gliding, and it looked amazing. And we're like, yep, we're doing that one. So we take a taxi, we go down to this place, the shop or whatever, where you all first meet up. And our lovely guide points to this like massive boat, and he goes, so the beach is 5 blocks that way, and we'll meet you down there with your boat. And meaning we have to carry it, and my wife is strong, deceivingly strong probably, but she's not necessarily built for boat carrying. And so by the time we get down to the beach, like we've broken up twice, I'm super sweaty, we get down there, and then the guy goes, okay, everybody's here. Now you see that calm spot in the ocean just on the other side of those 10-foot waves? Let's regroup out there. Meaning we have to go through those 10-foot waves, right, to get to the calm spot. No training, neither of us have any idea what we're doing, right? So about an hour later, we're on the other side, and I'm pissed at this point because it's not calm. I feel like I'm doing most of the work. The tide is like pushing us. The sea caves are still like a mile that way, which means we've got a lot more paddling to do. So I just start digging in, right? And I'm digging in, and I'm working hard. I'm sweating. The top of my feet are like cooking from the sun, and I'm hating this, and I just want to be done with it. And like right about the time I'm about to call her quits, I hear my wife, and she's like, "Babe, isn't this amazing?" And I look up, and she's just like. She's like looking at things, she's having the time of her life, and at no point whatsoever is her paddle even touching the water. I was doing all the work, which of course I had to point out to her, and long term it was healthy, it was good. We learned a lot about communication, we learned a lot about our physical limitations, and so if you're looking for a way to lift up the marriage and improve your communication, I highly recommend it. My other observation from the summer is a little more controversial. Swimwear. Like, can you talk about swimwear for a second? Because it seems like it was not that long ago that we wore swimsuits, but now I think we're just wearing stuff from Victoria's Secret. And, no body shaming, like no judgment, you do you, but it's troublesome for some of us, and I'll tell you why. We went to slide waters quite a bit, and it just seems like it's like thong day was every day, and so believe it or not, when they sell thongs, there's no like requirements, right? They just will sell them to anyone, and I know that's shocking, but they will. And so I'm walking around slide waters, and I study I do risk for a living. I assess risk, and some of that is microbiological risk, and so unfortunately I work with like E. coli and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's in the back of my head, and I'm standing in line behind Great Aunt Margaret, who's wearing a thong, and there's like 1/16 of an inch of fabric between the place she poops from and the water slide that I'm about to go down. But I'm a weirdo for walking around slide waters with a thing of Lysol wipes in my skin, right? Yeah. So I just think that next time we're gonna have a major cultural shift like that, we have a discussion about it, And I don't know what that looks like. Based on the last couple of weeks, I'd say social media is probably the best place for us to meet. And I would recommend that as a platform. So, no, yeah, you guys have been great. I appreciate you listening to me talk for a few minutes.